What's up, everyone? We're here on Futaba Japan's homepage. If you haven't read the title of this video already, they got some new stuff coming out for their drift line. There's a new gyro, a new servo, and a new mid-range remote. We're going to take a look at the product listings and check out all the features, so let's get into it. So this is the new gyro, the GYD 560. This is going to be the successor to the already super popular, widely used GYD 550. In terms of shape and size, it looks pretty similar to the 550, but we'll have to scroll down to the features and functions in a second. So right now I want to look at the price. The price they have listed in Japan is 17,600, and then it's important to note right now that none of these products are released in Futaba USA right now. So these are only available in Japan as of right now, but we can probably expect to see them coming to the North American market soon. But I just want to use the Japanese listings for features and to compare the prices. So if we take a look at the 550 price over there, it's 15,400 yen compared to 17,600 for the 560. So we can probably expect the 560 to be a little bit more expensive once it's out here in North America. So we'll scroll down to the features. We have operating voltage of up to 8.4 volts, so that's going to be good for your high voltage servos. We can take a look at the dimensions compared to the 550. So dimensions are pretty much going to be relatively the same. I think the 560 might be a little bit smaller in some aspects. Weight is pretty much the same. Functionality, we have the high-speed response system compatible with F4G UR mode servos. So their UR mode is supposed to be about 30% faster than their super response or their SR mode is what they're claiming. So that's going to be on a new high-speed protocol. Remote gain functions set the gyro sensitivity from the transmitter, so basically you just want to make sure that you have a remote that's capable of controlling your channel 3 for the gain. Ultra compact, lightweight, aluminum case, compatible with S-Bus systems, so there's probably going to be some wireless settings that you can change in here, but we'll scroll down to that in a second. For digital servos only, for use with Futaba HPS BLS servos, and digital servos only, analog servos cannot be used. So with the previous GYD 550, we know we can use analog servos, but it stated that you could only use Futaba digital servos, but now on this 560 it's mentioning Futaba servos and other digital servos possibly. We know from the 550 that we didn't have any problems using servos such as like the RevD RSST or the Yokomo like SPO2, SPO3, so it's nice that they mentioned that you can use pretty much any digital servo. We have a normal ABCS mode, so that's carried over from the 550. High speed, high response mode, high gain mode, that's from the 550. Tail slide speed, gyro curve, left and right endpoints, damper adjustment, that's all from the 550. But the stick priority mode adjustment, I'm not sure if that's a new setting, but might be similar to like the KO Propo KGX, the overdose dice gyro, and I think even the Power HD, one of the new Power HD gyros has a priority control adjustment setting. Basically what it does is you can control how much priority your steering has over the car when the gyro is functioning like mid-drift. So that might be interesting if that's a new setting. Supports wireless adjustment function, so probably just wireless adjustment of all the settings we just talked about. Wireless settings are only available for F4G systems, T10PX, T6PV. That's the new remote. We'll get to that in a second. R404 SBS, R404 SBSE receiver. So what I'm taking from this is in order to get the most functionality out of this gyro, making all your wireless adjustments to all the settings, you're probably going to have a remote that works off F4G on the R404 receivers. So that's probably going to be your 10PX and your 6PV. So if you have like a 4PM, a 7PX, I don't think you're going to be able to wirelessly adjust any of these settings. So you probably won't be able to make use of this gyro like you can on the 550s. T10PX, T6PV, R404 versions compatible with wireless settings for GYD 560. Software update is required, so they'll probably release a software update for like the 10PX once this gyro hits the market. This little sheet, basically I Google translated it and it just goes over everything that we just talked about. And then now we can look at the instructions, and we'll head over to my phone for this. Alright, so I have pictures of the manual here on my phone translated. It looks like the translator might have had some difficulty picking some of the stuff up, but we're just going to do our best to read it and see if we can find anything new. Mostly all of this stuff kind of looks the same as the 550. It mentions the UR mode servos down at the bottom here. But other than that, pretty much everything is the same, so we'll go to the next page. So here's the second page of the manual. So far, it looks pretty similar to the 550. Down here for the servo type, we have digital servo, SR mode, and UR mode. So this gyro is going to be compatible with some of the older servos that are off the SR response mode, such as the CD700, CT700, CT500, and CT501. I think the only new drift servo that's on the UR response mode is going to be the CD701, which we'll talk about in a second. Over here we have some setting procedures for gyro reverse, reset. Up here is the procedure for the neutral setting and your left and right endpoints. I think this procedure is going to be slightly different than the 550, so we'll see how this is all done once the gyro comes out. And that's going to pretty much be it for the GYD 560 manual. So this is the new transmitter, the T6PV. This thing looks pretty nice. Kind of a mix between the 4PM and the 10PX. Looks like it's got a color screen. It's running the same user interface as the 10PX. This remote's kind of meant to bridge the gap between the 4PM and the 10PX. Kind of reminds me of like the older 4PX. It was a mid-range remote, but it had a nice color screen, and it was running the same user interface as like the higher-end remote at the time, which was the 7PX. So the best way I have to compare prices on these, since this one comes with the more expensive R404 receiver, this one's a single receiver with the R404 for 60,500 yen. And if we go over to the 4PM Plus, this is single receiver with the R334 receiver for 37,400 yen. So we can expect this remote probably to be a little bit more expensive than the 4PM once it's out here. So we'll scroll down to the product features. Yeah, like I said, running the same user interface as the 10PX color screen, so that's really nice. This one's going to be running F4G and UR response mode, like I mentioned with the gyro. This one is going to be capable of binding under TFHSS and SFHSS, so if you already have some of the other on-road receivers, those will work. But note here it says TFHSS SR mode is not supported, so you can't bind under TFHSS SR mode, but if you have an SR mode servo, you can still use that with the F4G protocol. These normal, big, and drift model types, these were available like on the 10PX and some of the other remotes. These aren't super important to have. If you use it like the drift mode, it'll just turn on like your gyro mixing, and it'll automatically assign some switches for like gyro gain and stuff. So it's not super important to have it, but it is nice if you're going to be using gyro mixing. A lot of these other settings look like they're crossed over from some of their other remotes, pretty standard stuff. SD card is going to be used to store model data, telemetry data for software updates, so SD card slot. This is a really nice feature, the grip, so there's going to be small, medium, large grip. This wasn't available on the 4PM. 4PM was pretty much just locked into one grip size, but the 10PX, had optional size grips for everyone's got a different size hand, so this is going to be nice on the 6PV. And then the drop down and angle wheel is also really nice too. If you don't know, Futaba had stated this before, but the closer your hands are together. So if you think about like a normal remote, your trigger's down here and your steering wheel's up here, but as you drop your steering wheel down closer to your trigger hand, they're saying that the response from your brain to doing actions in your hands a little bit faster. So it's actually beneficial to have it drop down to where your wheel sits kind of in front of the trigger. The buttons look nice, full color LED, and the jog wheel. The jog wheel from the 4PM isn't my favorite, but you know, it works just fine. I don't really know what this is. A body catch pin holder, I guess, if you want to store extra body clips. You know, if you run body posts, that's fine. Requires dry cell AA's. You can use the optional Futaba LIFE battery. This one has the USB-C charger, I think, so that's pretty useful if you get that battery, but super expensive. I think that battery is like $90. This one though, right here, I want to highlight this. For the LIFE batteries, you can also use the non-contact charger, the LFO2. So the LFO2 is their inductive charger for the 10PX, so that's a really nice feature, but that item is Japan only. But if you can find one, you know, it's really nice to have a wireless charger instead of having to take out your battery, plug it into your charger, or even plugging in this USB. You just set it right down on the charger. You can use the 3D carbon handle for the 10PX, so that means that the handle is going to share the same bolt pattern as your 10PX, 7PX, 4PM, so if you already have a handle or something, it'll go right on there. And that's pretty much it for this one. All these settings are pretty much just standard standard functions for remotes. Yeah, mixing. So right here in the accessories menu, we got S-Bus servo stuff, so you'll be able to wirelessly control your S-Bus servos through there. Your MC ESC link, that's going to be for your Futaba ESCs, your AccuVance ESCs, so that feature is still in there. Gyro link for that GYD 560, that's in there, and then the rest of the stuff is pretty run-of-the-mill for most of the other Futaba remotes. Got bag of accessories, and the instructions for these I'm not going to really go over. It's super long and it's all in Japanese, so we'll have to wait until this remote comes out. Alright, the last new product in their drift line is going to be the HPS CD701 servo. It's going to be the successor to the CD700. So we have a price here of 30,800 yen. Click over to the CD700 and we have a price of 30,800, so you can probably expect the CD701 to be about the same price as the CD700, which right now is about $270. CD700 drift servo has been redesigned with the ultra response mode, so the CD701 will work off that 30% faster ultra response mode. Looks about similar to the CD700 here. We'll scroll down to the features and then I'll pull up the 700 so we can see. We'll just do a side-by-side comparison here. And it looks like pretty much everything's identical speed, torque, dimensions, weight. So the only difference with the CD701 is it's going to be compatible with that ultra response mode and also SR mode. It's got their HPS motor, which is basically just their high performance brushless servo motor, so standard for Futaba servos that we're working with. Not much else listed for the 701, but we can probably assume that it's going to have all the same settings as the CD700, so your damper, your stretcher, your boost, and all that good stuff. That about wraps it up for this preview of the upcoming GYD 560 gyro, the CD701 servo, and the T6PV remote. Pretty exciting stuff coming out from Futaba, even though I don't personally use any of their stuff on my main car anymore except for the 10PX remote. I'll probably have to pick some of this stuff up to try out for you guys once it hits the North American market. So we'll update you guys once it comes out in the US.